Okay guys, this is going to be one of the most important lessons in terms of Elasticsearch basic configuration and core concepts, and this is going to be about replicas in sharding. So first of all, the most important question is that what happens if your node hard drive fails? So the answer is actually obvious. Your data will be lost forever. So because of that, because we need to prevent that kind of situation, Elasticsearch supports replication for fault tolerance. So this is going to be similar to other databases. You replicate your data into other nodes so that your data, if one node fails, if one node's hard drive fails, the other one will be up and running. And the replication is actually supported natively and enabled by default. So how does it actually work? Basically, it configured at index level, much like sharding itself, and works by creating copies of shards. So the replication, each replica's data is exactly the same as of its primary shard. A shard that has been replicated for the first time is called primary shard, which we covered in the previous episode. And the primary shard and its replicas, which may be one or more, are referred as replication group. We are going to talk about the replication group in a bit. And replica can serve search requests much like primary shard. So there is no difference between querying into replicas or primary shard for that matter. And the number of replicas can be configured at index creation, and we are going to talk about the number of replicas in a minute. So this is an example of how shards and replicas are configured. So first of all, we can name each of these replication group. So primary shard A with two of its replicas are named replication group A, and in the shard B is much like the first one. So primary shard B, its replicas called replication group. But how are replicas placed in our nodes? So the obvious and the core concept is that your replicas cannot be in the same node as your shards, as your primary shards. That should be obvious, because if one node is, for instance, on our first hard drive and the hard drive fails, so will be the primary shards and the replicas as well. So that wouldn't make any sense to put your shards into one node. In this scenario, we have two nodes, node A and node B, each of which are in the different hard drives, in different virtual machines or anything like that. In node A, we have the primary shard A, and in node B, we have the primary shard B. But replicas of shard A are being saved in the node B, which is in a very different hard drive, and vice versa. The replicas of shard B are being stored in node A. So in this way, if the node A fails by any means, the shard A will be lost, right, or damaged maybe, but the replicas of A are very much healthy and available in the node B, and vice versa for the shard B. So that's how it's essentially work. Or we can see another scenario which is not very common but can be done. In this one, in the node A, we have the primary shard A and the primary shard B in the node B we have the replicas, whether it's one replica or more than one. That doesn't matter in this case. So this is another one, and this doesn't restricted by two nodes. We can have hundreds of nodes with hundreds of replicas, but the first and foremost thing that we have to remember is that replicas are not being saved in the same node. So as we are going to see in the near future in this episode, any shards that have any shards that being created in one node, there will not be any active replicas for that shard. So as long as we have one node, we are not going to have the replicas for that shard, and that's actually that's by default in the Elasticsearch. Okay, choosing the number of replicas depends deeply on the use case. So you have to answer some questions like, is it okay for your data to be unavailable while you are restoring it from, I don't know, any crash or hard drive fails? Or is the data stored somewhere else, like in any RDBMS? Much like so many systems that save their data in MySQL and sync their data into the Elasticsearch as well. So if the primary shard or even replicas are failing in terms of hard drive or any other kind of accident, the data is safe in the MySQL. So because of that, you need to think about how critical is your data. If it's very critical, if the availability is essential, you need to have more than one replicas with obviously more than one node. But if it's not, you can have one replica in the other node that you have. What comes with the replicas is that you will have the performance improvement for sure. So replicas can serve different search requests simultaneously. How is that? Actually, when you have replicas, because the data is being synced between all of the replicas, or we can say replication group, any concurrent request that comes into your system can be routed into each replicas. So as you can imagine, the performance boost is unimaginable. So other thing is that Elasticsearch can intelligently route your request into the best shard in terms of performance and availability and scalability. So if you when you have replicas, the Elasticsearch will determine which request goes to which shard or replicas. And as we talked about before, the CPU parallelization improves the performance in multiple replica shards, because if the nodes and the data is in the multiple replica shards, even in the same node, CPUs with its multiple cores can parallelize the search request so that the performance can be improved. So let's see some of our theories in action. So first of all, we are going to create a random index. So I'm going to name it pages, right? If I hit enter, yes, it's acknowledged. And for the next step, I'm going to query what I did before, and you know it. So I'm going to say cluster and health. So I get these data. So if you take a look at the status, it says it's yellow. Why is that? As we just said, as long as the primary shard doesn't have any replicas, the status will be yellow. And why Elasticsearch didn't put or didn't create our replica at index level we created pages? The answer is that we have just one node, right? We have the number of nodes in here. We didn't create any other node than the default node that has been created by Kibana or the sample data that we created. So that is why the status is yellow, and that is why the number of nodes are just one. Okay, next thing, we are going a little bit deeper with get underscore cat and indices, and we make it human readable. Okay, let's take a look at here and see what's going on. So yeah, we have the Kibana sample data here with green health, and we have our pages index. Don't pay any attention to this product index, it doesn't matter, but we just created the pages. So as you can see, the primary shard is 1 and the replicas is 1. Okay, what's happening? I just said that we don't have replicas for pages, and that is why the health our in this index is yellow, but it is 1. So what happened is that we have 1 replicas for the primary shard because Elasticsearch is used to create the replica shard as soon as the primary shard has been created. But because the replica shard is unassigned, and we can check it out later on, because of that the health is still yellow because the replica is being created but not being assigned to new node because we don't have any other node than our first node. But something more interesting and more odd is that the Kibana index, which we created long ago, is green health, but surprisingly without any replicas. That is insane, right? The explanation for that is that Kibana comes with a predefined setting called auto expand replicas, and this means that as soon as you create another node, which we can do later on in the course, as soon as we do that, Kibana itself comes up and create that replica as soon as we create the new node. So it is going to be a default setting, and until then the health is green. But in other indices that we create, as much as we want, the status will be yellow. And this is not something problematic. This is something that Elasticsearch is actually informing us in order to make our data in much way protective than it already is. Okay, and another thing that we can try while we're here, we can say cat underscore cat and shards. Let's see what do we have here. Okay, there are a lot of information here, but I'm going to just mention a couple of them. So Kibana default data is stated is started, so it's up and running and it's green health. But if you come down to our pages index, as you can see, the primary shard, which is being indicated as P, is started, but the pages index replica shard is unassigned, as I just told you. So yeah, and it goes with product index as well. So the primary is started, but the replica is unassigned, and this can be sorted out by creating a new node. So this is pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any question, any related question, regarding replicas, you can ask me on the comment below.